Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagine podcast. And right out the gate, we're having some tech issues. So it's okay. It's all good. We're going to make it work. It is fine. So, anyways, I am so excited about today's guest, Fiona Sim. She is amazing. She's a mom and an entrepreneur and just has to balance multiple things, right? While trying to pursue her entrepreneurial goals. So I am so excited that she agreed to be on the podcast. And Fiona, thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I really loved about when I met Fiona is that we just seem to have a lot of similarities about the timeline we started our businesses and just being moms and just trying to just do all the things. And it seems like we don't have time to do all the things. So, anyway, Fiona, can you just share with our listeners who may not know who you are, what you do, what you're all about?
Of course, I'm Fiona. I'm from a small town in the southeast of Scotland called Duns. Probably no one's heard of it, but even people in Scotland hardly have heard of it. But I'm from there. I grew up here and I went away for a little while, moved around, came back. Since I had children, we've settled down here. And yeah, my journey kind of mostly starts when I had children. I know a lot of people have the same thing. So when I had my children, very quickly we decided that we were actually going to home educate when my first eldest daughter was born. And that's how I kind of got into the whole entrepreneurial mindset of things because I knew that I would have to work from home and I wouldn't be able to go out and work just because I wouldn't be able to balance that with childcare and stuff. My husband works full time, so it wouldn't work. So I tried for quite a few years, lots of different ideas. I did actually look for jobs that would be flexible, but nothing is ever flexible enough to pick up and drop down exactly when you need to do it. So yeah, eventually I started a few little side hustle businesses. Nothing really took off. And eventually it got to a point where I was just kind of like, this can't possibly be it. Like, I'm not just going to keep trying and failing. Surely not. Like, it's got to happen at some point. And around about this time, I happened to come across someone online who was running a specific course, and I didn't really have any business knowledge at all. So I took this course to get myself a bit of foundation, a bit of background, and it was like exactly what I needed to sort of kickstart and get going with what I wanted to do. So and now I'm a certified business strategist. I've taken more courses after that first one to become a certified business strategist, and I help parents to find strategies to balance the whole business life, home education type thing so that they can reduce the overwhelm of all the things they have to do, increase their productivity in their business, and ultimately make more money because they're doing more things. And it's all stuff that I myself have like had to balance, and and that's what I like to help other people with. There's got to be more people out there like me who want to be able to balance children, work, life, home education, all the things. And sometimes you just need a buddy to help you with it, and that's a bit like what I do. I just like to help people. I'm a planner. I like to plan. So if people are not so good at the planning, that's where I come in.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love that you just want to be there for people who are trying to do the things, go after the dreams that they want, whether it is an online career or just being a present mom and being able to choose how you want your um, children's education to go, because it is a choice. We all have choice, and not every choice is the right choice for everybody else. And so I love that you're prioritizing, okay, my children's education really matters to me. I want to do homeschooling, but at the same time, okay, I still need to help provide because I am a mother and not put all the financial stress on my spouse, but I need to figure out something that's flexible enough to work with those responsibilities and those goals. So I applaud you for doing that because that's not easy. That's not easy. And I similarly, with being a caregiver by trade, both professionally for 15 years and then personally for multiple family members, that's kind of the what really led to me being a online entrepreneur too. Is I needed the flexibility as well to work from home, but also just have the flexibility to customize my hours around the needs of my loved ones' needs. At the time when I started, I had a 1 year old, and my husband was very, very sick with his seizures. He was struggling at that point to just find a medication that helped control the amount of episodes, the volume of episodes he was having. He was ranging with to have 10 to 20 plus seizures a month. It was horrible. So having the flexibility to be able to just pause what I was doing on my computer and go give my daughter a snack or change a diaper or give my husband rescue medication and assess him for injury if he had a seizure was so important, because I don't know about you, but when I was looking at remote work online, there was just nothing that would really work with the lifestyle I was needing, because they wanted X amount of hours put in. They wanted a certain degree or certification or prior experience, a bunch of that. And I had neither.
No,
So,
nothing. Same as
yeah,
me. Not at all.
yeah. So finding something that was flexible for the life that I wanted was very top priority for me. So when you were starting out, what were some things that you could share with our audience about how you just figured out how to make it work? Because obviously, I mean, I have one child, you have multiples, and that are different ages and different needs, and you're also still trying to work on a business. So how'd you find the time? How'd you do it?
Yeah, so hard. Definitely still hard, actually. I was going to say at the beginning harder, but I don't actually think it is. I think it just as you move on, different challenges crop up. As they grow up, different challenges crop up. So at the moment, they're still quite young. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, both girls. And at the beginning, at the beginning, to be honest with you, it took a lot of mindset shifts to get me to a place where I was looking at it from the right way. So before I started, I was kind of thinking, there's absolutely no way I have time to do this. Like I was going through my days and doing all the things I needed to do with them and taking them out and going outside and doing just all the normal mum things. And in my head, there was just no space in my head or in my real life for anything to be done. So it took a lot of thinking about to myself. I had to kind of switch and reframe it all from I don't have the time to where can I find the time. So times like when they go to bed in the evening, I would, before I had the business, I would sit up and watch telly, relax. I would have my tea after they went to bed, because like you like to eat food that's all yours and not being shared out amongst many people who
Right?
have the same food as you on their plate, but still want yours. And so I started with evenings at the beginning, and kind of got into a routine of having like a solid couple of hours in the evening to get stuff done. And then as I got a bit more confident in what I was doing, and as I got a bit more quick, because obviously at the beginning it takes a lot of time to get into the swing of things, to get into the habit of things. Like at the beginning, it would take me like a full 45 minutes just to do like one social media post. And obviously I got faster at that. So then I was able to slot tasks in during the day in small amounts of time. So like if they're playing a game, for example, at the moment, top game is mums and babies. That's like their whole life is just one perpetual game of mums and babies. So if they're really, really into that, for example, and they're in the sitting room and they're playing, and I can see that they're quiet and they're going to be like contained, let's say, for at least 10 minutes, I can then get a job done. I actually split my to-do list into two parts. So jobs that will take 10 minutes or less and jobs that will take longer. I save all the jobs that will take longer for the evening, and the 10 minutes or less ones I try and work through during the day while they're like having time to themselves. And actually, as they get older, it's getting a bit easier in the sense that they'll actually play with each other now, rather than, I mean, they still fight a lot, but they also play a lot more and get engrossed in their games and stuff. And so yeah, it's really just, it's been massive mindset shifts, and a lot of just experimentation, like what works for us, and like what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for someone else, but that's what I like to help people with, like finding what's going to work exactly for them. Like you said something earlier that really resonated with me, like people have the choice, and everyone has completely different circumstances, and everybody will work in completely different ways. And it's finding those ways that work perfectly for you. Like even I'm still experimenting. Like not everything I do works perfectly, definitely not. But like I'm always trying new things. I'm always up for a challenge. I'm always up for seeing what we can do. And yeah, we just basically muddle through.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, and it's interesting too, when two things that popped out to me when you were talking is number one, um, just start. Sometimes the best way to figure out what's going to work for you is just start. And in my own business, it's so funny. I actually just had meeting with my email marketing coach before this interview. And that's something that she has been working with me on. And I'm just snowballing it now. It's like I got the momentum going. It's like just start with your systems for organizing your content. Just start with putting yourself out there. And you know what? It's such a snowball effect when you just start, because then you learn most by actually doing, because you don't learn by thinking, you learn by doing. So experimenting with what works for me, one of the problems I've had with staying organized is figuring out what software works for me to keep everything organized, because I've had problems with some softwares where it just doesn't make sense, or I've had trouble accessing on my computer. It's been this whole thing. Tech can be a nightmare, but at the same time, I don't want to stop me. And so I've been doing Airtable a lot, and I'm just really loving how I can just group things together, link everything. Everything's in one spot. I can see on my phone or on my computer what's going on. And also just starting to just snowball with the ideas too, just trying something, putting it out there in an email, and then seeing what happens. And then once I do that, I get more ideas. So it's really about just starting. And whether like I like what you say, Fiona, just starting doesn't mean it has to take hours of our day, because we are parents, or if we're a caregiver like I am for a chronically ill loved one, and also being a mother and having 3 chronic health issues of my own. Got diagnosed with something else this past week on top of everything. So anyway, it's all right. It's going to work. It's going to work out. But the whole idea is to just start, and then just kind of figure out what your ebbs and flows are with time. And again, as your kids get older, as your loved one maybe improves, they get more stable, perhaps with their health, or maybe you get to the season where you do need to incorporate help in terms of outsourced help, like family, friends, people in your church, maybe home health or hospice even, or maybe even just other agencies, to just have people come into your home to have another on-site adult. There's so many possibilities, and you can just tweak. It's okay. It's a lot easier to tweak and change something that's already in motion than be stressed out because you don't even know how to start, because you haven't started at all, or you're not brave enough to start. And I'm with you there too. I only have one child, so it's not that she has a playmate, but the fact that she's older and in school full day. So God bless you for homeschooling 2 children. I don't have the bandwidth with everything I have going on to do that. And she's in a good school that I went to, a good Christian school. So I feel very good about my choice, about what I think is best for her and our family needs. And for you listening, you have to make the best choices of what you think is best for your clientele, best for your family, your spouse, your children, and best for you, because it all starts with you. If you take on an option that just is draining mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, it's not going to allow you to keep the momentum going for anybody else, be it your clients, be it your children, be it your other family members that you have, your marriage. There's so many aspects that goes into being able to tackle our goals, whether it's personal goals or whether it's professional goals.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, especially the just getting started bit. And like at the beginning, it can feel super overwhelming. Like you've got this big plan in your head of what you want to do and what you want it to look like. But normally the plan that you've got in your head is for like it's for like a year or 2 years in advance. Like you know what you want it to look like, but when you're looking at it from the very, very starting point, looking at that massive big leap, it's too far. It looks too overwhelming. It doesn't look like something you can achieve. So another thing that I do is I literally break down tasks into the smallest possible chunks I can get them into, just so that when I write them down, they don't look too overwhelming. Because starting with something that like something, if you're thinking in your head, this is what where I want to be in a year, but then you're looking at your piece of paper and the next thing you have to do is going to take you literally 2 minutes. That's so much less overwhelming. You can just do that. You can just get it out of the way. And like you said, once you've started, the momentum builds. It is the
Mm-hmm.
snowball effect and you just get going. And it's the same also when you have like, so the last week I've had a really bad procrastination week and I've worked through a lot of it, but like it's in dips like that as well. When things start to get overwhelming and it's stopping you from moving forward, you kind of have to go back and reset everything again. It's not like I sometimes forget when it gets overwhelming to start at the beginning. You almost have to go back to ground zero and build up from the start again when you're feeling like that, because if you don't, you're just going to get stuck. And then that's how businesses fail. That's how previous businesses I've had have failed, because I've just got stuck in a slump and I've not been able to find my way out of it. But now that I've got the strategies that I've got, and I know the ways that I can work through my mindset, I can go back to the start again as if I'm doing it from scratch and just build from the beginning like I did the first time. And I know I can do that because I've done it already. So looking at your past, what you've done already as proof to yourself that you can do it is a really good way of like moving past any mindset blocks, because you've already done it once and you can do it again for sure. You just need to start at the beginning if you're
Right. Yeah.
getting procrastination slump like me.
Yeah. Well, and let's focus on the planning bit for a minute. So how you plan can be a big thing. When we're creating in our businesses, we call them systems or SOPs, standard operating procedures. And I guarantee you, if you look at how I run the back end of my business and how Fiona does hers, totally different. And it's supposed to be that way because our brains are all different, and we process information in a certain way, and the layout of how that information is laid out needs to be in a certain way. So if you prefer to write by hand, paper calendars, a wall calendar, a planner, a notebook would be probably a great little tool for you. But I know for me, I need to see it multiple ways. So I love Google Calendar because I can color code my schedule that way, and I can set customer alerts. So I personally like to know a day in advance what's coming down the pipeline. So for example, this recording that, the day yesterday, I got a notification on my phone reminding me that I had an interview today at this time. And so I just knew, like, okay, I need to make sure I don't forget about that afternoon meeting. So what works for you. And then also too, in terms of software, there's so many options out there for planning tools. Don't get overwhelmed. There's so many. But if you're wanting to use a software, I would say Google. If you have a Gmail, Google Suites has tons of stuff. They upgraded Google Calendar to have a task section now, so you could just put tasks and due dates in that way and have multiple tasks if you wanted to have one for, say, home life and one for business, or maybe one for something else. Maybe it's yard maintenance or something. Whatever you need to do to kind of keep things categorized. But then you could go the other way. I personally have used Notion, Asana, ClickUp. I'm currently on Airtable because I like how I can link things together a little bit better than and with the layout after trying some of those other softwares. And again, free plan, accessible on your phone or your desktop or laptop. And what I like with Airtable, what makes sense for me there is that I can do automations to set up things to just pop up again on each of my databases when I need to. Still working on learning that to get the quirks out, but that's a tool. But also even just being able to look at things by projects. So like today I was actually I figured out with the help of my coach, my email coach, of how to she doesn't necessarily use Airtable herself, but she helped me figure out, oh, okay, if you hit the group button and do it by either categories or due dates, it'll group everything by those projects or by those specifications. And then the layout is so much easier. And so when I did that, I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. Instead of just seeing a long list of how I had it initially in my database, now it's grouped by, oh, this is a podcast episode project, or this is a blog post, or this is a email, or this is for a launch I'm going to do, or this is part of a summit or a bundle or collaboration project. And then be able to still see the due dates in order by each project. I can still go through each day and go like, okay, what do I have going on in the podcast? Okay, nothing there. Okay, email. I need to write 2 emails. Okay. Everything is just organized and in a layout that makes sense to you. And you might have to try a few things. I'm 4 years into my business, guys, and I've tried so many software, so many tools, but that's okay. You got to figure out what you need to do that will work for you. And then you tweak it as you go. The best piece of advice I've ever gotten in my career online career has just been to just start, like we've talked about, but don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about it being perfect. You're not going to have all the tweaks out. Like the current system I've been doing, I'd say over the past 2 weeks to almost a month now, is, it looks way different and way better than it did a month ago, but I'm still working out the tweaks of how I can make it better. And that's okay. But I have the peace of mind knowing, okay, I know where to find things. I'm not wasting 45 minutes trying to find a piece of content to work on it, or wasting 45 minutes trying to find the graphics I was going to use to create my slides for a presentation. I'm not wasting 45 minutes trying to find the URL to the page on my website that I was going to edit. When
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have a system, it makes it easier and faster to get stuff done, especially as caregivers, as mothers. It makes it easier to consolidate the time that you have, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's a couple of hours. Guys, I come from a career where I would work 40 plus hours a week. I honestly don't work 40 hours a week, even with where I'm at in my business. And I don't ever think I want to have it go that far. I want to make it to where I'm still getting to meet and connect with people, but I don't want to feel pressured where I have to sacrifice time, because I like the flexibility to do other things. And other things aren't just cleaning your house, taking care of your children, nurturing your marriage. They're doing your hobbies. They're doing volunteer or getting together as friends. They're trying new classes or interests that you have. You need to have the best quality of life means having the time to invest in things that light you up, and not just in terms of the basics of water, of food, water, and shelter. I'm talking about what nurtures your mind, what nurtures your soul. Because as entrepreneurs, as caregivers, as moms, one of the big problems we can run into is being so tunnel vision is getting so tunnel vision into those three roles that we don't allow ourselves time to focus on any other area of our life.
Definitely. So easy, like so easily done to like not even like just to forget about yourself because you've got so many things that you're focusing on, so many people that are relying on you to help, so many
Mm-hmm.
people that are relying on you children to stay alive. Like you
Yeah.
it's so easy to forget about yourself because you just do all the time and it's you don't even take a second to think about what would be good for you. Like that's something I'm trying to work through at the moment during the day is that when I'm getting tired during the day, like it's okay for me to sit down and I've been sitting down with the children and reading a book and stuff because like they're getting time to sit and chill and I'm getting time to sit and chill. But before that, like most days it would go all day without sitting down once. And it's just it's tiring. Like you get to the end of the day and I'm too tired to do any work. So if I can take even like a couple of half an hours during the day to sit down with them and just read a book, like I like reading. They like books. I don't like children's books that much, but it keeps them occupied while we're doing it. If I sat and read my own book, it wouldn't be the same, definitely not. But the just the act of sitting down and not doing anything very stimulating, just doing something calming for all three of us actually is really it's really good. It just kind of like brings the vibe down and everybody can take some time to just kick back and have some time to themselves ish.
I love that. Well, and like what I tell my clients is 15-minute breaks. 15 minutes to refill your water bottle or your glass of water. 15 minutes to maybe go outside for a short walk around your neighborhood, around the block, just to get some fresh air and get a change of scenery. 15 minutes to even just maybe get up and just do some moving, maybe do some stretching, maybe dance to a silly song, read a chapter in a fun book. Obviously everyone's situation is going to be different. I mean, obviously you're going to be your creativeness and what you can do in that 15 minutes is going to be a lot different if you have a newborn than if you have older children that are between 3 and 5 or 6 or 7 years old, like what Fiona and I do. And and obviously in the situation too where she's a full-time stay-at-home mom. I am too, but part of the day now during the school year my daughter's gone, so I can work on my business, so that's my outlet, which is great. Back in the day when I started, I would be, you were talking about how you stay up late. Girl, after 10 o'clock my brain's gone. I'm like,
I know
I'm
it's
out, your girl's out. So I would get up at like 4 in the morning, and from like 4 to 6 before my family would wake up, that would be the time I would get up and I'd pull out my laptop and just work to have the house quiet. And also too, it was partly too, I needed the house quiet then because I didn't have, like I do now where we live now, a place in my house where I could shut a door. My office was like in the middle of everything, halfway between the living room, halfway between the kitchen, and I had a wall that I looked at. It was chaotic, but I made it work. Whereas now I actually can shut the door, even if our daughter's home from school because she's on a spring break or something. I can still have the advantage of still coming into my office for a few hours, and shutting the door, and she knows that it's mommy's busy, you know. So,
Yeah.
but that's the season I'm in. You may, for those of you listening, you may not be in that season. So it might mean staying up late, or it might be getting up early, or it might be just if you have kids that still nap, maybe that for right now, the season you're in, the 1 to 2 hours your children are down for a nap, that's your time to work. And that is okay. That is okay. Or like if you want to get creative, like Fiona, the way technology is now, it's great. I mean, obviously we have to be careful. We don't want to always be on our devices, but those little pockets throughout the day of like, hey, I can work on a graphic for 10 minutes on my phone because they're playing outside, or I can or even something for self-care, or I can listen to like I like to listen to the Encounter app. It's a
Mhm.
Christian devotional meditation, and going out for a 15-minute walk and listening to one of those, that's great. Or doing YouTube walk at home videos, I love doing those, and they're 15 to
Yeah.
20 minutes. So it's about just breaking things down into more manageable steps, breaking things down into little chunks of where you're being intentional. Intentionality really is the whole umbrella theme of anything that we're talking about today here, guys. Is just being intentional with your time, being intentional with just taking it a little bit at a time, and giving yourself grace and understanding that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Motherhood is a marathon. Caregiving is a marathon. Entrepreneurship is a marathon. It doesn't happen overnight. And so giving yourself the grace to just be okay with that as you're learning, as you're tweaking, as you're just figuring things out. Because kids don't come with a manual. Marriage doesn't come with a manual. Caregiving doesn't have a manual. Yes, as a former healthcare professional, I can give you tips and tools, and I'm passionate about doing that to help you kind of feel your way through. Or if you're in the homeschooling department, or have that passion and goal, Fiona can help you with that. But again, we can give you tips and information, but you're still going to have to figure out how to tweak the information and modify it in a way that works for you, because every situation is different. No two situations are 100% alike. So, Fiona, we've talked about making sure that we're just breaking down those tasks. We've talked about making sure we're just taking into account our situation. What is one to three other important tips that maybe we haven't covered yet that you think our listeners need to know when they're just starting out, whether it's getting their children into homeschooling, or maybe transitioning them into a daycare so you can have a break or more time, or just starting a business, or maybe any other goal, or maybe just having a break from caregiving. Anything could be enter XYZ, anything. But
Sure.
what are some tips that we could give them to help them
Yeah,
through?
so I normally have three tips, but the first one is breaking everything down into the smallest possible manageable steps, and we've talked about that one, so I'll go to number two. So number two is really paying attention to the things that you're telling yourself inside your head. So it's so
Ooh.
easy not to hear them, so not to hear them at all. And I wasn't hearing them for ages. It was only when I started really tuning into what I was telling myself, like not like the sort of things like, oh, I can't do this task now. It's what you're telling yourself really deep down inside your head that's telling you you can't do this task now. So, for example, I'll use going live as an example because I really do not like doing that. So, going live, and I've got something called rosacea, which is it looks like acne, but and it can have massive flare ups and it gives you a really red face and you flush a lot. So if I've got that going on, and I know I'm supposed to do it live, like I'm saying, oh, I don't want to do this live in my head, but like really deep down, what I'm actually thinking is I don't want to go on there and let everybody see my face the way it is right now. Like, and if you like when I first started listening to those things that were going on, like it's not like normally you wouldn't even hear it. You wouldn't even think about what was going on in the back. You're just thinking about what's going on in the front. But it gets to a point where it's so frustrating because you don't know why the things you're saying to yourself in the front of your brain are happening. But when you start listening to what's going on in the back and you tune into what's actually like the reasons for the things you're thinking, it's really it gets much easier to change your mindset because you know what the root cause is of the thing that you are putting off, if that makes sense. So, like, so all the negative thoughts and the limiting limiting beliefs and stuff that you're having that are stopping you from moving forward, if you start to tune into them just a little bit and start to listen to them just a little bit, you'll suddenly find you're catching yourself saying things, like you'll hear them more often because you're listening out for them. You don't think you are, but you are. You're, because you're thinking about it, they're just, you're waiting for them to happen. And I'll
Mm,
sometimes just find myself, like, I'll catch myself inside my head saying something, so like just being like, oh, you're never going to make this business work. Just like, it'll just be a fleeting moment passing my head, but I'll catch it and I'll be like, wait a minute, what are you saying? Like what are you like? It's like challenging yourself in your own head about the things you're thinking. So that's one of my biggest tips, is to really tune into the things that you're saying to yourself that you're maybe missing when you're not really tuning into it, or you're not thinking about it. And it can take some time to really just sit. So like at the beginning, what I like to do is just sit with a blank piece of paper and just like let everything come out. Because sometimes that will bring up the things, and then you can look back on your paper and really pick out the bits that are making the difference in your mindset, and pull them out and really work on those particular bits. But then once you've done that a few times, you, like I said, you start to pick up on the ones as they fly past. You can pull them back and be like, hey, nope. And so that's one of my tips. And then the last one is getting comfortable with interruptions. And I think this probably goes very well hand in hand for what both of us do. And that is like, if at the beginning, when I was interrupted by my children when I'm trying to work, like I would get really frustrated with them, really upset, and we'd end up falling out because I'd be trying to do something. They'd be wanting my attention. It was putting me off what I was doing. It was discouraging me from what I was doing. And eventually I would just like, leave me alone. But they don't know that I'm working. Like they're only little. And I've only just started doing it. I had only just started doing it. So they weren't, and even
right.
now they're learning, they weren't appreciative of the fact that what I was doing needed some time. So yeah, getting comfortable with interruptions. So that means expecting that they're going to happen just in your mind. I know that I'm going to get interrupted at least 5 times while I try and do this. And then planning for them as well can be quite useful. So like, I know someone's going to come to me and ask for a drink. I know someone's going to come to me and ask for a snack. So if I put those on the table before I start doing my thing, when they come to me, instead of me having to get up and get it all ready, I can just be like, it's on the table, go and get it. Like, serve yourself type thing. Uh,
Right.
and yeah, just the fact of knowing it's going to happen means that you're prepared to be interrupted. You're prepared to be momentarily distracted from what you're doing, but you're also ready to go back into it because you're not getting discouraged by the fact you've been interrupted, because you know it's going to happen. And like,
Yeah.
preparation is key. If you know it's going to happen, it's not going to bother you as much as if you're trying to do something and you weren't expecting to be interrupted. Like that is the worst thing. Like it's so annoying. But
Yeah.
yeah, so just knowing, getting comfortable with the fact that they're going to interrupt you, and getting comfortable with the fact that you might not be able to do something as quickly as you'd like it to do has really helped me, because it means that because obviously sometimes they do interrupt in a way that I have to stop. So I just shut the laptop and come back to it later. But it just means that I'm not annoyed with them, and our relationship isn't being, not destroyed. That's probably too strong a word, but it's not, we're not having an argument about something that we didn't need to have an argument about in the first place type thing.
No, I love that. Well, and with thinking about interruptions, something else that just popped in my brain when you were talking about that is maybe choose those tasks that don't require a lot of redirection with your brain, that that are not easy for, like, so like for example, like sometimes in the beginning when our daughter started going to school, I would try to wake up, do some stuff and coincide doing that while she was getting ready for school, but that just was a recipe for disaster because I would be interrupted because she would be needing help with the next step of her morning routine. And I would be totally distracted off my groove. I couldn't, it'd take me so long. I can't remember what the statistic is, but it takes like, I don't know, it's like 7 or 10 minutes or something to like really refocus once you've been interrupted or something like that. So that was a problem. But what I did figure out too is though that I still want to keep up on our house. So one thing that I like is just to get ahead with housework. So in the morning, starting a load of laundry, uh, emptying or reloading the dishwasher, washing a few hand dishes that were left in the sink from the night before. That is helpful because then I have the peace of mind that that task is done and caught up. And so when I come back from taking our daughter to school, I can immediately go straight into my office hours going, I don't have a bunch of dirty dishes in the sink waiting for me. It's done. When I'm done, I can relax and do the next thing on my schedule for the day. And so so think about that. What are some tasks that maybe would work best for your busier part of the morning? Or maybe is it better to wait until if you aren't in a situation where you're going to do homeschooling, maybe, wait until after your kids go to school. But if you are going to homeschool, how can you curtail your day around that? So maybe the tasks that really need the house quiet and more focus, let those be your office hours where it's just you when the house is quiet, whether it's waking up before your family or after, or maybe with that 1 to 2 hour nap time if you're in that season. And then tasks that you can kind of do here and there throughout the day, like when, like Fiona said, that example of when they were playing mommies and babies, and that they're in that for an hour and you have an hour to just kind of focus your attention on the business again. Do that. Or maybe you could have that time be the time where you do pick up a book for an hour to read and get a little self-care in. Or maybe that's when you do your workout or something. There's no right or wrong way, but it is important to have some balance for obviously getting tasks done that you need to, both around your home and in your business, but also in making sure the needs of your family's met, obviously, but more importantly, time for you too. I mean, the business is important, your children are important, your marriage is important. Making sure your loved one that you're caring for is getting what they need is important to manage their illness. But it all is a house of cards if you don't take time for yourself. So definitely really lean into having a healthy balance between work and life and motherhood. Be it, whether you have littles or older kids or whatever season you're in, and with caregiving, it is not selfish for you to take time for yourself.
Definitely
So,
not. It's actually super important. Like you said, if you're not doing the self-care for you, then everything else isn't going to happen the way it should
nope.
happen. So you need to be on, it's like on the airplane where they always tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before you deal with your children. And it's exactly the same reason, is unless you don't have your oxygen on, they can't get theirs on. Like if you don't do the things that you need to do, their life is not going to go the way that you are hoping it will go. Or not their life, but like their day, for example. I don't mean their whole life. You're not going to ruin their life. That's not true. Their day is like, if you're not in the right place, that day is not going to go how you want it to go. So definitely 100%, like you said about going to bed and not past 10 o'clock, for example. Like sleep is something I'm also really strict on. And my morning routine, I do exactly the same as you. Like all my household stuff is done in the morning when breakfast's happening, and all those things are happening in that busy space, that because they're easy tasks, like you said, to pick up and drop and go back to. Like they don't require any brain power or any refocusing. They're just pick up and do, like they're autopilot jobs, for example.
Yeah. So think about that, because brain space is important, because obviously there's some task in your business or some caregiving tasks where you need a lot of focus. And obviously, I'm sure with schoolwork, you have to think about that too with your kids. Like they're probably, I know for sure with my daughter, I may not homeschool her, but she does have homework lessons, and there's things from her speech therapy that we're also need to work on once a day. And the best time to do that when she has school is first thing when she gets home, because after dinner she goes into that slump of she starts to get tired and she doesn't focus as well. She's done for the day because it's been long. And so you're going to have to think about that too. If you're doing the homeschooling thing, or even for yourself with your business, think about when you're freshest. For me, like I said before, I'm not a night owl anymore. My early 20s, yeah, pushing 40. After 10:30, 11:30, I'm done, because obviously sometimes I do have to go to bed later because of my husband's schedule. And you do need time to unwind. Yes, you're tired, but you do have to have some time to unwind. So that's our cutoff point. By 10:30, 11:30 at the latest, depending on what his schedule is, we're done. But our daughter goes to bed sooner, obviously. But think about that. You have to figure out what your bandwidth is of when you're freshest, because you want to do good work. You want to be able to help teach your kids a lesson when they're freshest, and they're going to remember the information and be engaged with that lesson. You want to focus on the harder tasks where you need to look to focus during your time when you can't, during your day when you can focus, for one, but also when you're freshest. So if you're not a morning person, but you do better at late at night, maybe that is a better option for you, or vice versa. If you're like me and you're like, forget it, I can't function in the late hours of the night. So getting up earlier, or maybe just making sure that after your kids go off to school or once they start their lessons for the day, that's the best time maybe for you to do your focused attention too. So there's no right or wrong way, and it's okay to try something and see how it goes. If it works well, run with it and just keep going. If it doesn't, not a problem. It doesn't say anything about you as a mother, a caregiver, or an entrepreneur. Just you got to adjust a little bit. So, anyway, yeah, Fiona, it has been so good to have you on the podcast. Where can we find more Fiona?
Yeah, sure. I'm I'm mostly on Instagram, so underscore Fiona Sim on Instagram. I think you've got the link, and yeah, you can find me over there. You can see what we've been up to. You can watch my stories. You can chat to
Yeah.
me.
And do you have a website as well with more
Yeah,
information?
yeah. Sorry, of course I do. Yeah, I do have a website. It's www.fionasim.withtbsc.com, and you can find me over there too. And that's got all the offers and stuff that I've got at any particular moment will be found on there as well.
Yeah. And do you have anything particular coming up for Black Friday? Because it's coming up soon. Is there anything special you want to have our listeners pay attention to that might be a great resource to help them in their homeschooling journey and trying to figure things out?
Yeah, sure. To be honest, the best resource I've got for mindset and stuff at the moment is actually a free resource, so it's even better. And it's called Break the Spiral, and it's all about identifying, challenging, and reframing the negative thoughts, like we were talking about earlier. And it's a workbook, so you can work through it, and it's got questions, and you can answer them, and you can really dig deep and see where it is that your limiting beliefs are stopping you, and help yourself move forward to that as well. I think you've got the link for that. So
Oh,
the
yes. Oh, yes.
if
Yeah.
anyone wants to look at that, please download it. That is exactly it's really helpful. I use it myself.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That's okay. Use the stuff that you create for yourself. Sometimes it helps even better. Yeah. And
Definitely.
don't worry, guys, wherever you're watching this, on the blog, on YouTube, on Spotify or Apple, all the look below. All the information will be below. And definitely, of course, reach out to, I will have all of her information for you to contact her if you have follow-up questions. And just remember that it is okay. It is okay if things go awry. It is okay if you need to try again. It is okay if you have a hard day. It doesn't say anything about you as a wife, as a mom, as a caregiver, as an entrepreneur. Your clients need you. Your children and your spouse need you. And whatever family member, be it a grandmother, an aunt, a parent, grandparent, a special needs child, spouse, whoever you're caring for, they need you. So definitely carve out that 15 minutes a day to throughout the day for those little breaks to nurture your mind, body, and soul. And as always, be sure to tune into another episode of the Caregiving and Entrepreneurship Reimagine podcast. And thanks again to our guest this week, Fiona, for her time in coming on the podcast. And I will see you guys next week. Take care, guys.